Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 49 of 𝗙𝗪𝗋𝗄𝗧. And today is a special day because it's the beginning of having 4 people on at once. So we've had Vita on before, but we have 2 new people, Priya and Megan, and I'm so excited for them to introduce themselves. And since we haven't heard from them before, we're also going to be hearing about why they love 𝗦𝗃𝗄𝗻𝗄𝗧, which is super awesome. And we're also going to be doing our favorite secondary character. Okay, so let's start with Megan for alphabetical order, if I'm right. M is before P, I hope.
Hello, my name is Megan. I am 32 and I am in Oregon where, lots of fire, lots of, riots in Portland and, everything's falling apart if you believe what they say. But I love 𝗦𝗃𝗃𝗄𝗻𝗄𝗃 first because the art is amazing. It's one of the few anatomically correct, in more ways than one, the comics out there, like especially on webtoons. And secondly, because I feel like Lily actually tells the truth of what the human experience is, the good and the bad, when a lot of times that kind of stuff is glossed over. So I appreciate that point of view because as somebody who has gone through many a troubled time, not everything is roses. Or I guess in this case, poppies?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Priya. I'm a pediatrics resident in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm so excited to be on the podcast. I discovered 𝗦𝗃𝗄𝗻𝗄𝗃 during quarantine, as many of us did, and it really helped me through some tough times, as did this podcast. The biggest thing is just like working through a lot of things that have happened in my life, and of course the art is so gorgeous and it's just such a beautiful story. And my favorite secondary character, I would have to say, is Erdine. She is hair goals and tattoo goals and style goals and best friend goals. And I love her.
That's awesome. I was actually thinking of getting like a purple and blue wig, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can cosplay Erdine with that. And Erdine is the character I feel like I am most like in terms of personality. But Megan, let's get back to your secondary character.
Yeah, I just remembered that. That's a hard one. I'd have to say you. I love his loyalty. I love his loyalty and is willing to lend a listening and non-judgmental ear, which I feel like Tora doesn't always get.
Yeah, 100%. Vita.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Vita. It's been a while since I posted anything on Patreon. I'm currently a 4th year medical student. I've had a lot of board exams and applications coming up, so I'm not quite as involved as I would have wanted to be in the community. You might remember me from one of the earlier podcasts. I think it was Quincy's Angels. I'm kind of blanking on it. But it's always a pleasure to talk to you guys and connect with you guys. I love being able to see your faces, to be honest. Sorry, viewers, you're only getting to hear our voices. One of the things that I've really loved about 𝗦𝗃𝗃𝗄𝗻𝗄𝗃 is not just like how cerebral Lily makes it. Like, she makes you work for the information. I usually only find that in like really good novels. To me, it's such a novelty, sorry for the pun, to find it in a webtoon, to be honest. So I love the fact that she's able to add such a large layer of depth and meaning into small little details. More than that, though, like with the COVID pandemic, as with most of us out there, there have been times where things just got a little bit overwhelming, to be honest. And one of the things that surprised me, especially about the comic, is what parts have resonated with me on a personal level. And I remember that there was a post that I put on Patreon where I felt really, I really felt that I connected to Tora, to be honest. It was when his struggles were made real as a child. And it was one of those moments where I thought to myself, if Tora can get through this, then I can get through this too. And just being able to think that to myself, and also to connect with the other community members on Patreon as a result of it. It just made the world of a difference, to be honest. So I love the fact that you can find those little moments, and you don't know which ones they are, and just really connect with and resonate to. And my favorite secondary character is probably Alice, to be honest. I love me a sassy grandma, but like more than that, she and Joe are probably the reasons why Tora has such a human side to him. Like, he's able to emotionally connect to Poppy and to understand her. And yeah, that's all Alice and Joe. So Alice is my favorite side character.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Vita, relating to what you were saying about Midnight Popular and getting you through hard times, and looking at Tora as an inspiration. So that's a little personal, I guess, but I don't have any filter or like sense of privacy. But recently I was also going through like a very emotionally overwhelming thing, and I saw Tora at that point as like a source of strength. And like this was a little bit before he started showing his vulnerable side in the comic. Since then I've kind of seen him more as like a human being with weaknesses and like emotional vulnerabilities. But this was before, when he was much more stoic. And I pictured him, I was like grasping for a lifeline. So I pictured him comforting me and just talking to me and telling me it'll be okay, don't worry. And I mean, that really, it was very, very helpful, that like very tumultuous night. So thank you, Lily, for providing that imaginary figure that I could lean upon. Just I needed a crutch, and Tora was that crutch. And so in terms of like my favorite secondary character, it's also 𝗪𝗓, Megan, and it's 𝗪𝗓 because he's such a good person. And you said he's loyal, and he's 100%. He's loyal. He's there for his friends. He's unassuming. He's humble, and he's just always there for them. And I love that, and I think that's such a beautiful quality.
Oh yeah, it's hard to find yourself a good, loyal friend.
I recently saw on Instagram some art of 𝗪𝗓 and Erdine together, and my heart exploded because that had occurred to me a few weeks ago, and I think that would be so cute.
Yeah, maybe I'll link it. I think it's 𝗪𝗏, right? 𝗪𝗏, who does that art, and kudos to her because she does amazing art. There's tons of beautiful people who do great art, and that one's one of them.
I have a very unpopular opinion because I know how many shippers there are for 𝗪𝗓 and Erdine. There was a comment Jacob made in the earlier chapters that had me thinking Erdine played for the other side.
Oh,
Right. The one where he says, stop, don't touch her breasts, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you could take it one of either way. But I mean, I think that's the beauty of the comic too. Like, I read it differently, and everyone loves Erdine and 𝗪𝗓, and I don't want to take that away. Like, I love the love.
Right. I love the artwork, but I'll tell you, I don't think that they would work as a relationship, because to me, Erdine is very, very strong-minded, and 𝗪𝗓 seems like he would be too passive for her. I think Erdine would need someone more sharp, but it could also be the opposites attract, and she would like him because of that. But I don't see it working personally. But I still like the art itself illustrates like their tenderness and their love beautifully. So I love seeing that.
I would love to see what kind of chemistry they have in the room, because I think there would be a lot of chemistry. For me personally, I think it would be more friendship. But that's just me.
Well, we'll find out if there's going to be anything between those two. Okay, so ready to get into it?
Yeah.
Let's
okay,
do
so
it.
a quick Go ahead, Priya.
I just wanted to say one thing. I thought it was interesting that this is the first thumbnail in Webtoon that's an inanimate object. And so that might have some significance. I thought that was cool.
Wow, I did not think about that. I kind of subconsciously realized that, but that's a really good point. That's, I mean, it's clearly meant to be the central frame of the episode.
Yeah.
I mean, she did say in Patreon that it's going to be a plot point. I don't think we realize just how big of a plot point it may be.
Yep. Okay, and that's how the episode actually starts out. It starts out with just a quick recap of last episode. Last episode, Poppy was at Tora's apartment, and they had their reward system presentation, which is basically every time Tora wants to smoke now, he can demand that Poppy give him a kiss instead, which is fantastic. Was it last episode or was it the episode before? I don't even remember. But sorry, yeah, I think last episode actually was the dream. And where Tora was on Poppy's lap, he had the dream going back to him as a kid. And Poppy talks about how she feels so relieved that Tora gave her the ability to express her emotions, and he validated those emotions.
Yeah.
So this episode starts out with the pin. It's Benjamin's text. How much for this? And the person that he's talking to, and we don't know who this person is, says $50, best offer. If you want higher, come down in person. And some people saw that as a bit suspicious. You know, why would you want to have to come down in person? I mean, obviously, like ostensibly, you know, the person wants to evaluate the pin and see it in person, but some people thought that maybe there's something fishy going on there, and that Benjamin could be putting himself in danger by going to this person. So Benjamin's outside, he's tapping, he's on the phone, and he's like, $50, these are effing diamonds, and that's all you're offering, which to me is a little bit, you know, it shows two things. It shows his desperation, how much he really wants that money, and also desperation to the point of maybe naivete, you know. It's you know, he thinks they're diamonds. Like, are they really diamonds? Like, I didn't think they were diamonds. They don't look real to me, you know. So it's
Wrong color. Wrong color for diamonds.
Right.
Yes, I actually looked it up, and red diamonds are actually the rarest kind. And so they probably aren't red diamonds, as this person is about to text back, unless they are. And maybe the hairpin has that much more significance, and maybe the hairpin there's like money hiding in the hairpin, whoever might have given it to Poppy.
Why would you wear that as a hairpin? Why would you go down to the most dangerous place and wear that as a hairpin? Like, okay. I think that just, like, for me, like, I don't know. I don't know if this is coming across right, but like the way I was taught, you don't go into dangerous neighborhoods wearing fine jewelry. You take it all off, you hide it, you don't flaunt it. I guess like my interpretation was a little bit similar to yours, Mindy, where it was more ornamental, like it was more what it signifies. I didn't really think of it as diamonds or rubies or jewels or gems. And I think originally too, she had converted it into like from something, which I think may have been like a brooch, into the hairpin. So there's just I'm questioning Poppy's decisions if that is indeed like jewels. Poppy, come on. You're smarter than that.
Right. So I think, Priya, I didn't think about what you said before. Like, I always assumed it was cheap, but it could maybe, right? If it is worth a lot of money, then either Poppy does know and she's being naive, like, you know, like Vita was saying, and maybe she's being a country girl and just, you know, completely unaware of how she should behave in dangerous situations, or maybe she doesn't know that it's expensive.
Yeah.
And, you know, that could be like a way of passing on money, or it could be cheap. You know, we don't know. But definitely awesome speculation. Megan, I think you wanted to say something about the pin.
Well, I was going to mention the fact that it was converted into a hairpin. I'm actually trying to see if I can find out what she said specifically, because she did kind of go into detail about how she converted it and well, not like major detail.
I think she added
I
a
mean,
bobby pin. So
something along those lines. But didn't she mention what it was? I don't remember.
I don't. Yeah, if you find it, let us know. I don't remember anything like super interesting about that. But I mean, you know, about putting it on a bobby pin is not very secure either, by the way. So I feel like Poppy.
No.
But on the other hand, she did say it was something important to her, and you know, so maybe she's just not super careful in general. Okay, so you know, this is Benjamin, and he's getting a text back, and he says, the person he's texting says, "If those are diamonds, then I'm the king of Nairn. What kind of idiot you take me for? $50, take it or leave it. You want a higher price? Bring it down to my shop for valuation. Stop wasting my effing time." And you know, what's interesting, obviously you see like Benjamin actually uses punctuation, and like, you know, he uses an apostrophe, he uses, and you know, question marks. This person that he's texting with doesn't at all. Like, it's the most run-on-y sentences you can get. And okay, just, you know, what you would expect from somebody who takes, you know, things like this. Again, next panel, Benjamin's looking down, and then you hear from around the corner, you hear these words. "And we saw Ben's sister last night at the strip club." And you're starting to get a little bit of a flashback to Ben going to Club Miracle and what he was doing there, why he said, "That's my sister, leave my sister alone." And now you hear it's his coworkers. You see they're wearing the same uniform, and they're saying, "Shit, no way, was she any good? Any good? She's the star of the whole show, man. Hell, I'd do her in a second if she lets me." So thinking about it from Benjamin's perspective, you know, right now we think that she's a sister, but most people would not want to hear their sister being talked about like that. So you really are understanding why Benjamin is trying to get money, and we'll learn more as the episode progresses, and also why he went down there to begin with. Megan?
I almost feel like in the panel where, you know, they're talking a little more, and you can see Ben looks a little frozen. He really looks frozen, kind of like, "Oh, what?" And I noticed through these panels there seems to be kind of this overarching theme of shame. He seems to be frozen and fighting against the shame, which I'm sure we'll go into more detail in a few. But that's where I first really noticed, like, he's frozen, like he's fearful almost.
That's a good point. Yeah, I see that. Right, his shoulders are like stiff, and yeah. So, but he does immediately interject. You know, he stands up for his sister's honor, and he says, "The F are you guys talking about?" And you know, it's in bold. It's italicized. And then his coworkers are like, "Oh shoot!" Like, you know, he's around the corner. They're sweating, and "Nothing, man. We were just talking about." And the other one actually says, "Oh, for F's sake, just say it in his face," which I kind of appreciate, actually. You know, being forthright, and whatever you want to say it in public. And you know, if it's not appropriate to say in public, don't say it to begin with. You know. So I kind of do appreciate that. Like, and it's being honest.
Yeah. I think part of it too, where some of his frustration or his shame, whether it's rightfully placed or not, comes from, is the fact that his mom was probably really young when she had him too. So he probably feels a level of protectiveness over her. Like, she was likely in her teens, single mom, raised him completely on her own. And as a result of that, she probably had to get into debt with someone that was super shady, because they mentioned the debt a little bit later on in the episode. So I could see where he feels overprotective of her, and where she feels that she is doing what she needs to do to provide. So kind of like both aspects of it. It's kind of the way I took their relationship, at least for right now.
Right, and something that I've seen in other situations like this, where there's one man in the family, and their mom's young. I do feel like sometimes they tend to adopt the role of man of the house, and they feel like they have to take that responsibility. I've definitely seen that with other people who are the only sons of young mothers who don't have a husband.
I was kind of thinking through some of the ages as well. I think he must be 16 or 17. I know you can have, like in the States, you can have a job when you're 14. He doesn't look like a 14-year-old to me though. He's a little bit too tall and built for it. I would please
Mhm.
her maybe like 30s, like her early 30s is how I was thinking of it, which kind of makes sense then why she's flirting with some of the with the characters that are younger, like Tora's 26. So in terms of like age gap and why she looks so youthful, it all makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 31, right? Like, so in a couple of years, I could be Candy.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it would be nice to be able to be quite so attractive as Candy. But anyway,
You got the
so
pink beret on.
what?
You have your pink beret on.
I do. Almost like pink hair. But anyway, so the honest coworker, which, I already have a little bit of a soft spot just for that. He says, look, no disrespect, Ben, but we know your sister works at 𝗪𝗵𝘁. Not going to lie, she's effing hot. And the other coworker is a little more ashamed. And he says, yeah, we figured out the moment we saw her when she came here to pass some shit to you last month. And Benjamin explodes. He's like, well, don't you effing bring that up again. Once I get a hold of enough money, I'm taking her away from that filthy shithole. And he's exploding. And we don't see his eyes the entire episode, basically. He's covered his eyes with his hair, which is a typical like teenage thing for shame and, not being able to be who you are and being embarrassed and not having the ability to face the world, which is something that a lot of teenagers feel, but also in particularly Benjamin, I think, especially in this confrontation with his coworkers. So he is completely sensitive about the fact that his sister, quote unquote, works there. And he tells you his motives right here. He says he's saving up enough money to take her away from that filthy shithole. And again, it's this protectiveness and, this embarrassment of her working there. And he doesn't want them to talk about it either. And now you see from the background, you see none other than Candy herself. And she says, so I'm your sister now, huh? Benjamin J. Johnson. And that whole tone of voice right away, I was like, okay, she's his mom. Nobody says Benjamin J. Johnson, but the mom. And this is the point where the coworkers scram. And they're like, oh, let's get back to work. We'll have our smoke break later. And then Benjamin doesn't say anything. And Candy says, guess I should thank you for shaving a few years off my age, little bro, sarcastic. And I just want to note, like, Candy's appearance here, to me, I thought it was very mature and very professional. Like, she is not dressed, in an exposed way. She's not dressed in a way that really draws attention to herself. She has the long nails and, she has her very nice pink hair and those eyelashes that are clearly fake eyelashes because nobody has that long eyelashes except for Tora. But she's dressed in a very mature, professional, somber outfit.
Yeah, I agree. She's dressed as much of a mom as she could possibly be dressed as. And she also has this coin purse on her hand. And we know that she is getting paid in cash and tips. And I wonder if even her bonus was just given as cash, like under the table type thing. I don't see the coin purse in any of the panels after that, but I just thought it was interesting that she was carrying that to pass on to Ben, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And one thing I noticed actually, she looks like her body, obviously her body is beautiful, but she also looks like she's in good shape, like her butt and her glutes, like they just look like they're very well toned. I'm noticing that as somebody who's like exercising now and I'm, so I can see people when they exercise. So she looks like she really takes good care of herself, her body at least.
I was really glad you mentioned her butt. Her butt looks amazing.
It looks great. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's perky, it's round, it's high up there, and it looks great. See why she's popular, huh?
Yeah.
So now, Benjamin, what are you here for? Again, like a teenager mode, not talking so respectfully to his mom. And his mom says that. She sat down at the ledge. This is rude. I got a nice fat bonus today. Thought I'd pass you some money before heading to work. Mm-hmm. So she is, caring. She cares about him. And, we're going to see more of the interaction, but like she's definitely maternal in the sense that she's taking care of him, right? He isn't abandoned on the streets. They have a relationship. She's sustaining him. And, you know, now she's just looking at him, and here you kind of see like the boob job, right? Like ginormous breasts. And she says, now this next panel, she opens her eyes wide. She has this very like that innocent, childlike look. And so you think your mom's dirty. And oh, by the way, did you also notice she has pink eyes?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
noticed that before. I don't know if they're contacts or
Well,
just
I'm
kind of,
assuming they're contacts, unless it's a supernatural world.
yeah.
Yeah.
So again, you know, this question, obviously, like this is a very hard hitting question. And I guess if they never talked about it before, it's possible that they never talked about it. But that's like a very tough thing, you know, for you to ask your kid, like, you think that I'm dirty.
I guess
So
I got, oh,
go ahead, sorry.
yeah. So I guess I got the sense that this was a recurring conversation, to be honest. I think part of it too, they're just not seeing where the other one is coming from. Candy, for whatever reason, wants to feel like she's the responsible one, the one taking care of her son. But her son wants to see his mom kind of free of her shackles, and they keep seeing the worst side of the other person, which is why they're having this dysfunctional type of relationship right now. Yeah, because like he didn't call her dirty. He called the place that she's working at dirty. And I mean, like the reputation that Area Street has, I mean, it makes sense, to be honest. And I think for her, it's a point of pride that she needs to be the breadwinner, and she just doesn't see a better way to get out.
Yeah. I think there was a question of whether or not they even live together, because this is like the second time that she's just stopping by to pass him money. So presumably maybe they don't. And we know from before that he either attends or lives at some sort of a center that Quincy volunteers at, and he's like Quincy's student. So I don't know how much of each other they actually see and are able to have these conversations.
That's a very good point. I didn't think about that. That makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna have kind of I've already noticed, like on the Facebook group, I may have a somewhat unpopular opinion. I think Candy's setting him up. I feel like she has her own projections of her own feelings against herself, and she's already starting it. So you think your mom's dirty? I mean, she didn't go in with like, hey, you know, I overheard how you felt. I mean, you really aren't liking my place of work. I mean, she's supposed to be the adult, the parent, and you don't want to just go in at your kid already with kind of these assumptions. I mean, and then she kind of nags on him. Oh, I mean, your sister. It feels like she just keeps digging at him, and I understand that she may be offended. I mean, and I'm going through this with a 14-year-old, but just because the teenager is coming at you with some offensive phrases and other things, it's my job to keep my cool and interpret that for what her needs are. Okay, you're saying these kind of nasty, mean things. I'm going to, you know, first of all, hold you accountable for saying those nasty, mean things. But then on the other end, I'm going to find out why you're saying these. What are you protecting yourself? I mean, like, what are you trying to get here? And I feel like she's not recognizing those needs.
I think you're right. And, you know, Candy is a person too. I totally get that. She's also young, like we were talking about before. She's probably just in her 30s, and she probably didn't have time to grow up. You know, instead of like she had, a lot of us sometimes, hopefully, right, when we grow up to be adults, we have a couple of years where we can mature and settle and go from adolescence to adulthood. But she probably skipped that stage and had to grow up really fast. And often people like that just don't have the emotional resources that they might have had if they had had more time for themselves. But that's a very good point that you picked up on that. I could see that, where she's egging him on. And, what I really liked what you said about it possibly coming from a place of shame within her, where she feels like, I want to defend myself, so let me bring it up so that I can defend myself. So, Ben, she's like, whoops, I meant your sister. Ben says, I didn't say that. I says the place you work at, not you. And now she's ready to right, come on, Ben, I'm an open-minded woman. Just tell me what you really think already. Right. Which is, again, I agree. Yeah. Egging him on. And here she is defending herself. I mean, I'm making an honest living over here. So what's wrong with that? Okay. So I put in an act here and there just to get the business flowing, but I'm not cheating or stealing or begging. Besides, these are just implants. Think of them as 2 plastic bobs sitting on my chest, which is like, way to make your son uncomfortable. Oh my God.
So awkward for him to talk to his mom
about her breasts.
Yeah, Mom, let me just talk about it.
She definitely sees herself as a modern free woman, with no filters, and maybe she should have a filter around her son.
Or maybe like Megan said, she has to get it off her chest. And I didn't mean that as a pun, but maybe she is walking around, especially obviously after he said that, she's walking around with this feeling of shame. So she wants to justify herself. And I think I think there's probably both. And you know what? It's probably because, I'm assuming Narian, right, is a city that has the similar ideology. There's a lot of people look down at sex workers, and they're viewed with a sense of oh, this is low class, this is disgusting, this is animalistic. And so she's probably walking around with that on the one hand, but then on the other hand, everything she just said, now I'm making an honest living, I'm not cheating, I'm not stealing, I'm not begging, there's no violence involved, people are paying me for a service. So I really like how this whole episode really brings out, I think, a very important issue. And I'm not particularly well educated on sex work. So I can't claim any special knowledge, but I will say it is something that I've thought about as a person, because I was raised very, religiously conservative, where, we were taught to cover up, and you have to respect yourself, and you should think of yourself as a princess, and princesses always are covered up and dignified, and very much taught we were covered our elbows, our knees, and our not to wear something tight, and we don't want to draw attention to your body because you're a soul. And as I grew up, I realized that there was a part of that negated the importance of the body and its place in human life. It was also a little bit of an anti-sex attitude. And I had to really work on changing that when I got married and I started having sex with my husband. So if we're going to talk about my sex life on the podcast,
let's go.
Yeah, no, I'm very open. I don't mind, but it took me a long time to get that sense of shame out of myself, and to accept that my body had feelings and that it was okay, because I had been taught that, and there was a very wonderful element in that, where I was taught you're a soul and you're an intellect, and, you're free choice. And that's what makes you a human. And that's how you're better than an animal, because an animal doesn't have free choice, an animal that cannot make moral decisions. But, so you're not an animal. So don't indulge in your desires too much. Don't be a glutton. Don't wallow in, don't wallow in bed all day. Don't eat too much ice cream. And by the same virtue, I realized don't enjoy sex too much, because that was something that was too animalistic. And it took me years, literally years, to knock that out of me. And my husband didn't grow up the way I did. My husband is a convert to Judaism, and he had a very healthy sexual attitude. He was very pro-sex. And after being with him for a while, I realized that I should not be ashamed of that, be ashamed of my sexual feelings and of enjoying my body. So, and Lily's Patreon, actually, I've said this a couple of times, Lily's Patreon really helped me a lot with that too, because the first time I saw Tora and Poppy together, I just saw love. And I said, that's beautiful. This is just a couple expressing love with each other with their bodies. So anyway, so I thought in general about sex work, and I was just really, really trying to think about it, and what do I think about it? And is it something disgraceful? Is it something that's predatory to women? Is it something that is disrespecting women? When you look at a woman for her body, or, for men also, and I'm not so familiar with that, but, you know, is it disrespectful? Is it something that is like, are you devaluing them, or are you just admiring them and appreciating like their gift or like their special strength? You know, is it something that's empowering, or is it something that's degrading? And I think that Candy is really struggling with this as well. Candy, Ben, and probably a lot of the audience. So let's hear your thoughts. I just said a whole bunch.
So, not to make myself sound like an expert, because I'm not. I did my bachelor's in science and psychology with a focus in neuroscience, but I, worked my way up into neuroscience, and I did end up working with a professor for a little while doing focus groups on women in sex work. So I didn't get to the focus group part. I was just one of many people in the line to get to the point of focus groups, which, if you know, in science and research and that kind of stuff, there are many people in the line behind you who have set you up for your spot. It's a multifaceted issue. First of all, there's the legality of it. I mean, we don't know about Naren. Well, for somebody who does exotic dancing and that sort of thing, obviously there's probably very little legality surrounding that, especially on like Aries. But if you're talking about like people who say like a prostitute and that kind of stuff, there's the issue of legality, but then there's the issue of, okay, are they, because you can be part of groups, or you can be a kind of a single kind of escort, you're your own businesswoman or businessman, however you want to go about it. But then you have to worry about like, okay, the people who are in the groups, they're most likely like involved from sex trafficking. So that's where a lot of the coercion and the inability to consent for self, because they've been forced into this trade, whereas somebody who's making the informed choice to say, I want to go off and do that. I mean, obviously there's a big, huge difference in that, and there shouldn't, I mean, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, there shouldn't be a, society shouldn't look down on people who engage in sex work, mainly because a lot of, I mean, your religious upbringing is not uncommon. I grew up Mormon, and the amount that they drill into you, like, you should not touch yourself, you should not touch your own body, you should not think impure thoughts, you should not engage with anyone except for your husband. Like, it gets pretty strict, and I grew up with a massive amount of shame, even surrounding like, oh, we're gonna want to go into TMI, let's go into TMI land. I even had trouble like even doing things like masturbation as a growing teenager, which would keep me from having sex with boys. In my case, I'm heterosexual, so but just imagine the fact that you are doing something that is biologically normal and healthy, and you have so much shame surrounding it. In fact, I had such a troubled relationship with the idea of sex and things like that I ended up becoming a victim of abuse. And it's because you're so blind to grooming that you don't realize that somebody's grooming. Because if you knew about sex, or if you knew about some of those intricacies, you could see, what are they doing? They're taking me down this path that I'm not ready for yet, or whatever, instead of me just falling right down, because I had no experiences to kind of guide me, because it's so closed off. So I think whenever we censor things like sex in general, or even things like sex workers, or having dignity for them as human beings, we're closing off so many things that lead down to so many different pathways of a lot of negativity. Sorry, that was a long answer.
No, I mean, that's perfect, because this is like this issue that's being raised with Candy and Ben's shame. I mean, I think it's 100% so
Yeah.
relevant. And I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this, because I think this is like a huge issue, and I think it's just very worthy of discussion.
So,
yeah, so I really appreciate this humanization of the sex work, because I think it's just so stigmatized. And Mindy, I agree with you. The shame and stigma from sex work, as well as like daily sex, can be often very rooted in culture. And I think Lily is definitely giving a gift to a lot of us in helping shift how we perceive healthy sexuality and consent. And we've seen, Erdine as a strong character saying, oh, I have healthy desires. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of that in the coming episodes.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting, because, Tora makes a lot of sexual jokes. And when I met my husband also makes sexual jokes like from today to tomorrow. And at first it shocked me. But as I have started having more of a healthy sexuality, and particularly, again, I think Lily does, I go along with it now. And now I make my own sexual jokes because I'm okay with that. And I think that's fine. I don't think it's crude or rude. I think it's normal and funny. But, I wonder if, like, I think a big deal for Tora and Poppy, you were talking about consent. I think Poppy is very uncomfortable with her sexuality right now. I don't think she's blossomed into it. We know from jewelry that she wasn't ready for anything physical with him. And she's always ashamed whenever Tora brings anything up. And Tora doesn't seem to be. I think Tora is conversant with his sexuality and is comfortable with his sexuality. So I actually would be very interested in seeing how Tora helps bring that out of her. And, helps her understand, it's okay to be physical. I desire you, and that's a good thing.
it's interesting too, because Poppy definitely sees Tora as sexy. Like, she literally was censoring herself. He's not a piece of meat. He's not a piece of meat. So it's been really interesting to see that coming through in her personality. But like, as you were saying, we know that she hasn't been ready for a complete, like, a sexual encounter in the past. I guess going back to sex work though, yeah, it's just interesting because we've had some similar upbringings just from different religions. I grew up Roman Catholic, for example. So yeah, the shame of God was, kind of over my shoulder for a good many number of years. And funny enough, it was actually fan fiction. I think it was Twilight fan fiction, if I'm really being honest about it, in like middle school and high school that started
that's amazing.
just normalizing sexual encounters for me. Because I agree with you guys. I remember feeling shame and confused, and how is this supposed to be a normal part of life if I don't like this part of myself, type thing. And just having that exposure to fun encounters on fan fiction sites just helped me, to be honest. And I think in terms of sex work in general, it's not the act, but it's more the systems that set up the sex workers for failure, to be honest. I think it's the systems that take advantage of many of the women and even men that go into the business, because they recognize, like, they look for young people, they look for people without experience, they know who to target. And as a result, because of their naivete, they can get taken advantage of in a really horrible way. So that's just my 2 cents, just kind of leaving it at that. I think it's a system that doesn't set up sex workers for success. But that said, I think I do have hope for Fans Only, that new app that actually puts the power into the people that are putting out the images and videos of themselves. I'm really hopeful that with more programs like that out there, where people can have more control over their own image. It'll help with this, like, decrease the stigma, but also reposition the power where it should be, which is back to the individual and not on whoever is quote unquote controlling them.
That's really interesting. I did hear of that website. Never went on it, but I'm not much into porn myself. But that is right. Am I understand correctly? It's basically fans only is like, I guess, patriarchal porn.
OnlyFans.
Am I correct?
It's
As far as I understand, yeah, it's like you have your own profile, you market and all of that. I mean, I don't really, I mean, except for Patreon with Lily, that's the only erotica I look at.
Yeah, same here. One thing, it's interesting. My husband is from Amsterdam. Well, he's from Zandam, right outside of Amsterdam. But that's they legalized prostitution there in an attempt to decriminalize it and to make to get that shadiness out of it, so that it wouldn't be, there wouldn't be these terrible handlers, and to try to make it above board and to protect women. And I don't know. I never looked into like the results and if it's safer there. But I know that was their attempt.
A lot of a lot of countries, they decriminalize the prostitution side, but they criminalize the John side of it. Where like if you go out and seek it, then you're doing something bad, but if you are providing that service, you are not. So that way, I mean, because obviously getting that person in trouble, I mean, they already are in a system where they don't need to worry about legal ramifications. I mean, it's not like it's going to affect their job. So, but whenever you criminalize the John, then you're like saying this is not appropriate on your end. You know better than to exploit somebody.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So bringing it back to the cartoon, so going back to like Benjamin's suicide mission. So, somebody, I think Tina Oliveira was saying that why would it be a suicide mission for him to, like, what is up with his, like, what does it mean for him to have gone on a suicide mission? So he's going there, and is it that Candy, she was speculating maybe Candy owes a debt in particular to Vincent, or she's in some way like a more important person than just like a stripper that is attempting to take her away from the Miracle Club would be so pivotal that like somebody would want to kill him for that. I don't know. I'm a little puzzled by that. What thoughts do you have?
Yeah, I put a lot of thought into this. We know that Ben goes into Miracle and says, "Hey, that's my sister," as a cover to pass the note to Mr. Lamb. And Candy wasn't actually one of the girls at the time because she had left earlier for her performance. But it seems like he had thought of saying or doing that anyway, even before Poppy paid him to do it. And we do know it was a suicide mission. So I didn't know if it was him with the intention of barging into his mom's performance, ruining it, and maybe getting killed, or something completely different that he had been put up to by someone else that wasn't related. But as we'll see in the next panel, they're talking about Candy's debt, and I wonder if Candy's debt to the clan goes deeper than just monetary, and that she knows too much now. It honestly, it seems like she's just in way too deep, and she maybe got into trouble somewhere in the past and is at the clan's mercy. But Vincent did say in the past that, if a dog strays, then it will be shot. And so I can definitely see how they're very stuck in this situation.
Go ahead, Vita.
Yeah, so two things. To support like your observation that she's likely in the clan, she was there during Vincent's 50th birthday. There's that picture of her and Tora. that Officer Lane has. So we know that she's there. And I mean, when she was there at Miracle more recently, she was hanging out with all the clan members. I think, I would say I agree with you. There's some kind of debt that I think that she owes to the clan. And I guess this was my question for you guys, because it's something that I haven't quite puzzled through enough yet. It's actually Ben's relationship to the clan. Because he's Quincy's student. Does he know who Quincy is? Is he getting groomed for the clan? I don't think he is, because he seems to be so dead set against getting his mom out of the clan that it wouldn't make logical sense to me. But I'm wondering what his relationship has been with the clan as well, especially with him being Quincy's student and Quincy being like, you know, the mob king, like Vincent's son. So I guess I just kind of like lead more questions instead of answering them.
So I think there's a couple of details, like little things are popping around in my head, and I also made a lot of notes on. I actually went back to previous episodes, trying to figure out the connection with Ben. So first, when Poppy gets Ben over to Quincy's house, Tora tells him, call the doctor, and, you know, reminding Quincy, call the doctor, and finally he goes, oh yes, clan protocols. So I think he's involved in the clan. Additionally, it's rather interesting that Ben works at a grocery store just down the street from Tora's apartment.
Mm.
And his mom is part of Club Miracle. Additionally, also, his mom is raising a lot of flags for me too, because I remember in episode 23, she's looking for Tora because she's wanting to chat him up for info. Is this info involved with her debt? And I mean, whose debt is it? Is it hers? Or is it Ben's? I mean, maybe that's why Ben is takes it so personally, because it's his debt and he feels like he needs to pay it off. I mean, I had a lot of questions about this debt, but also, like, what the heck is Candy trying to get from Tora?
So somebody actually talked about this, about why is Candy interested in Tora? And let me see who it was. I just want to, it was also Tina Oliveira. She was speculating that maybe whatever Candy's debt is to the clan, maybe she feels that because Tora is the right-hand man of Vincent and so high up, maybe he can protect her and help her out in that, whatever it is. And, you know, or maybe it's also, she was thinking maybe it's protection in general from being abused. And, you know, we're like, oh, that's Tora's girl, don't mess with her. You know, like, she's just a stripper, don't do anything else to her, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
Because she is I would think Tora's a little too young for her. And yeah, you know, okay, maybe the age difference is not so great. Maybe she you know, she is interested in him just like because he's, you know, hot. But maybe there is a bit of that, like, protection or the information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wonder if Candy is trying to find Tora to join forces with him to sabotage clan business and kind of go that direction with it.
Very interesting. That is very interesting.
Yeah.
How would she be privy to something like that? That's, I mean, or do you think they just ended up on the same wavelength kind of thing?
I don't. I guess the only hesitancy I have with that train of thought is I went back to 23, like you said. It sounded like the moment she found out, the moment she heard from Claude that Claude said Tora was gay, she got really, really angry, which to me sounded more like she was interested in maybe not a romantic relationship, but using her feminine wiles to get something from him. So it didn't really sound like a partnership to take down the clan type of thing. I think it's more manipulation to get something else. And I guess for me, it makes more sense that she would be looking out for herself and for her son. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm with you on that particular theory, unfortunately.
Right, I hear that. That's definitely, I also was thinking of that. It's true. Her reaction is very much like disappointed that she can't manipulate him. And I think you're right. You know, I don't think we have to necessarily judge Candy for wanting to be manipulative, or to take, you know, to use Tora, because I think that both Ben, and the same reason I extend sympathy to Ben for stealing Poppy's pin because he wants money, I would extend to Candy because they both are in hard situations, and when people are pushed against the wall, they do things that you know, a person who isn't pushed against the wall doesn't have to make the decision whether to do or not. So I'm not judging them for that.
In the episode, have we gotten to the part where she loses her temper yet?
No, not yet. So so let's continue. So she says, Ben, and you know, this is tying into what we were saying. So first, you know, Ben says, look, Mom, this is effing uncomfortable to talk about, so just drop it, okay? But you promise you'll leave as soon as I earn enough money to pay off your debt, right? And, you know, this is what he wants. And Candy says, Ben, don't be naive, which this is something that could could signal to us that it's more than just money, that there is some kind of clan involvement where like she's indebted to them in a way that money won't pay off, which is sad. You know, either that or the amount of debt is like so huge that she thinks Ben will never be able to pay it off. But I do think it's more than money. And, you know, he says, and you're not, you know, you're not naive. You really think those sleaze bags are into you for who you are, not what you look like, which to me is, maybe that is a reference to something that's like, why would he even ask that? Like, it's obvious that like people who are going to a strip club are going for, you know, for what she looks like. So like, it's a kind of a question that's like, it's a silly question. Like nobody, you know, Candy's not saying that they're into her for who she is. I don't know. What do you think of that? Do you think it's just Ben being, you know, kind of young, or do you think there's something more to that?
I don't think they're very good with their words. I think they just have a dysfunctional relationship, to be honest. And I feel like Candy heard that as an insult, and that's not necessarily what Ben was trying for. He was just kind of like, hey, open your eyes. They don't care about you type thing. They only care about your looks. And she kind of like, it's almost patronizing. He was being a bit patronizing towards her. And I think that's one of the reasons why she exploded. And one of the observations I wanted to make, actually, they are totally son and mom, to be honest. They're totally related. They both explode. They both call each other the same exact thing. I know I'm jumping ahead, but like, I kind of thought it was a bit endearing that they call each other dumbasses. They're related. So I think that's just part of who they, like, what their personalities are. They're both volatile, and they haven't quite figured out a productive way to communicate with each other.
I think a lot of this is Ben is misunderstanding that she is kind of in a hopeless situation. She's on the area of like, I don't know why you're even trying, because she's experienced this for far longer than Ben has. Ben has the eyes of youth, the eyes of hope, the eyes of, if I work hard enough, if I do this, if I do that, I can still get out of this. And Candy's looking at it from the eyes of somebody who has tried, and she is just hopeless right now. And Ben is misinterpreting that as willfully not doing anything, just being like, whatever, I'll just ride with this. And I think that's where it really breaks down, is the fact that she's not communicating like, you think I haven't tried? I mean, and he mistakes her kind of quiet desperation as just willful ignorance.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a very good point about the, you know, the difference between like the understanding of youth and the understanding of you know, of an older person. And I just want to harken back before we get to like the next part. I want to correctly attribute Shayla was the one who said that the suicide mission, that maybe that somebody really wants Candy to stay there, and that it would have been useless to try to get her out. And Laura Starr was thinking that maybe the third person. Remember Tora reference, you saved 3 people tonight. So there was Mr. Lamb, there was Benjamin, and then she was thinking maybe the third person is Candy. Do you think that makes sense? What do you think of that?
I was thinking it was actually going to be what was his name? The creeper guy. So here I thought, okay. Oh, that's like recontextualization. So originally the way I read it was that Mr. Lamb would die, Ben would die, and then for retribution, Tora would kill someone. That's the way I read it. And I think it was not what was his name? I'm totally blanking.
Shark?
Shark. Yeah. My thought was Shark, that Tora would kill Shark as a result because he would be so mad after seeing Poppy upset that he killed Mr. Lamb. I guess I was thinking more like it wasn't necessarily Candy's importance to the clan that would cause it to be a suicide mission for Ben. The way I read it originally was that the clan was just that dangerous, where if you go in and start making demands, they're not going to take that kindly and they're going to off you, which I think the guy with the braids, I used to be so good with these names, my goodness.
Shima.
Yeah, where he, I think he was the one that kicked him out. I don't remember.
I put down the accountant did, so.
The accountant. Yeah, like basically like they would have gone into the alleyway and just killed him outright, to be honest, especially if Poppy wasn't there to kind of like be there for him.
That's how I read it too.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, I'm hoping it's one of those things we'll find out, but maybe not. So, Candy's reaction to Ben saying this is she slaps him. She slaps him in the face. And this is, you really see, she's upset. She has tears in her eyes. Her hands are on her hips. And she says, and you really think I have the luxury to care? And, she's really, really distraught. Her eyebrows are furrowed. And, I'm just doing the best I can with what I have to keep us alive. Hi. Okay. And she's like, an F, maybe I am naive because I sure as hell didn't think I'd raise my son to be such a judgmental, self-centered asshole. And, Ben at this point, he's has turned away. His face has like that slap mark on him. And she's really distraught. She is upset. Ben's words have like hit her heart.
Yeah. I wish he hadn't slapped him.
What?
I wish he didn't slap him.
I'm not surprised. I mean, he's also, I feel like those kind of slaps, like to me, I don't feel like they hurt that much. I mean, have I been slapped as an adult in my face? No, but, definitely been slapped when I was younger. And I mean, to me, it's not about the pain, it's about the emotion and it's about the offense. She's expressing that she's so offended. And, it's physical violence is when you have so much anger in you that you have to take it out somehow. And words are not enough for her. She's overwhelmed by feeling and she has to express that in a physical way. And, this is where you can tell when somebody is actually, like you said, ashamed of what they're doing, because the fact that she's so defensive and then it hurts her so much means that this is something she thinks about a lot and she walks around with a lot of shame. Because if she was really secure in herself and what she's doing, she wouldn't get so reactive.
Yeah.
And she's calling her son like a judgmental, self-centered asshole, which it's tough. It's really tough to hear that, and for the mom to say that to her son. But you could kind of tell that there was miscommunication between them for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to that projection thing I was saying earlier. Like, she's saying that about him, being that judgmental, self-centered asshole. I feel like she's also saying that to herself. Because because like you were saying, they really are family. I mean, they're definitely mother and son. And I feel like she's seeing a lot of herself in him, and he's making a lot of the same decisions. And a lot of times when we see our kiddos doing that, we're like, oh hell no, you aren't going down the same pathway I did. I will stop you. Like and so you end up kind of doing some not well thought out things that hurt a lot of feelings, and sometimes our deep inside emotions come out because you're seeing yourself in the mirror in your kid.
Yeah, I think that's
I
a
think
very good point.
Just to add to that too, I don't think Candy wants to be doing what she's doing. Like, if she could choose to do something else, I think she would choose it. It's just the fact that she's trapped. And I think what we see in that panel too is her frustration that Ben doesn't get it. Yeah, he just doesn't get it.
Right. And, you know, for her, like she probably wants sympathy and understanding and respect, you know, for doing what she has to do, right? She's doing the best she can to keep us alive. You know, it's something that like she, at the very least, right, she doesn't want more judgment. She wants somebody to respect her and to appreciate like what she's sacrificing to keep them alive.
Yeah.
So instead she's getting more judgment.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, especially right from a person that, you know, you would want to be close with, right? The outside world, people who don't know you, you're like, okay, you know, I expect that. But from somebody close to you, you want them to love you and to accept you and respect you. And especially your son, you know, that's your children. You want them to respect you.
Yeah.
Not to be ashamed of you so that, you know, like their coworkers are talking about you and then you have to stop them because you're so ashamed.
Yeah. Yeah, and then she goes on to the panel where she kind of says, oh yeah, maybe you're right and I am naive, and then starts to call him basically a self-centered asshole, and then they go into their little you dumbass type thing, which I don't know, I thought that was endearing, the fact that they mirrored each other.
Right.
One thing I wanted to point out, one thing I'll point out now, actually. Did you guys notice Poppy's in the distance when you still see her pink hair flying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought that was like a really cute little detail. You know what's coming.
Yeah,
No, I
Right.
didn't see it. That was cute.
I appreciated the realistic background. There's like a construction site in the back or something, and it looks very real, and that was cool.
Oh yeah, I see that. When she's like rounding the corner and he's hiding from her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So also, I just want to point out that when she runs away and she says, you dumbass, and she stomps away, that she's reached the point of flooding, I believe the term is, where she can't engage anymore. She's too overwhelmed and she can't constructively communicate. So, you know, you dumbass is like a very, just like a cry, like it's not communicating any information. It's not a connection. It's just anger, upsetness, you dumbass, and, you know, stomping away. She's reached the breaking point. She can't continue this conversation anymore. She's too emotionally distraught.
Yeah.
So, you know, Benjamin's still looking down and he says, well, you asked, dumbass, which, like you said, is mirroring. And then, you know, tap, tap, Benjamin looks and he sees it's Poppy and he's like, oh shit, she's back. And he hides, right? He goes behind the corner and he hides. And at this point, you know, it's a bit of a flashback to whose umbrella is this? The chick that spent 10 minutes counting out coins for her groceries. You know, she's retrieved her umbrella. And it's a flashback to, you know, when she was checking out, she didn't have enough money. And the clerk was like, oh, you could remove an item if you don't have enough money for everything. What about the thermometer? It costs the most. And she said, I'm sorry, I need the thermometer too. Give me a moment. I'm almost done. Which, by the way, is just like very magnificent of Poppy. As for magnanimous, I meant magnificent too. For her to spend her last money on like food and a thermometer for Tora when we know Tora has plenty of cash, right? And he's actually given her some of her cash. Remember when she gave Ben like $50, but then Tora gave her back more money. So some of this money is actually it's actually Tora's. So yeah, I mean, Poppy is just a generous, caring person. You can see how much she cares for Tora that she's spending her last dollar for him. And she's just a very kind person. You know, that's the kind of person she is. She's generous, giving. And maybe a little sometimes not, so she's selfless, so, to the point of maybe harming her own self-interest, but she's going to do that for the people she cares for.
Yeah. And I think what's so clever that Lily does is these flashbacks. Like, I'll be honest, the first time I read them, I'm like, what the heck is going on? Because there's so many flashbacks and you have to reread previous, and then you finally put the timeline together in your head. And I think that's one of the reasons why this comic is just so appealing, because there's new details and there's recontextualization to everything. And it's just a really fun mental game that she kind of lays out for us. And I actually wanted to make one more observation, since now we're back to the umbrella. If you guys scroll up to, where is it? There we go. It's when the three workers were talking outside about Ben's mom. And it's the phrase where it says, "Nothing, man. We were just talking about, oh, for F's sake, just say it to his face." If you look in the window, you see her umbrella.
Yeah, good point.
I don't know if you guys saw that. You can see the umbrella.
Nice.
So one of the things that I started doing, actually, because like Lily has such an eye for detail, is I'll read the comic like multiple times just to get the timeline straight and to remember like what's going on from this to the last one or whatever flashbacks. And this one in particular has so many references to go back to. But one of the other things I like to do is just to look at the backgrounds. After I read all the bubbles, like maybe 3 or 4 times, I just look at the backgrounds and see what you can pick up. Because usually she just includes so much that either adds to the story or just adds to the richness of it, like that little umbrella.
That's awesome. I really like that. I should start doing that too. I definitely read it a couple of times, but I like that idea of reading it with separate layers in mind.
Yeah. Because I think if you remember too, she has been putting more effort into her backgrounds too. And why not appreciate them? Like just the amount of work. I think she has a separate assistant just for backgrounds, if I'm remembering.
Yeah, she has 4 assistants. I don't know exactly what each of them does, but yeah, their background and something else. Background and something. But yeah, I mean, I don't draw, and I mean, I draw a tiny drop, I guess, but I don't draw out background. I don't know how much, how to do that stuff, but like, it's definitely amazing. So Benjamin now has this, he has some guilt feelings. He's, sweating, and he says, "Is she really that broke?" And he thinks back to her, when she was dressed on Area Street in, Ordine's clothing. And he says, "I thought she was some corporate executive dressed like that. But now she just looks like a broke college kid." So he kind of feels guilty. And, he's remembering how she was kind to him. "I can't go to a doctor, stupid. They'll call my parents and I'll be sent back to the delinquent center," which again, parents. So he has parents. Was he just saying that?
He was just saying that.
Yeah.
Because
I think so, yeah.
then he says in one of the next frames, "I just didn't want to waste time explaining it to mom." I'm pretty confident she was a single mother. That's just my inference. I think he was just lying to Poppy's face, to be honest.
Yeah, which is also the presence of mind to be lying like that when you've just been knocked on the floor. Go Benjamin. Either that or he's so desperate that like he just, he's able to avoid that even when he's been hurt. And, he says, "No wonder she brought my story by not going to a hospital." She's a dumb college kid. And, he's like, and he goes back to the, the texting, and he's remembering how basically when he woke up in Quincy's bed or whatever, the guest bedroom, he saw the pin there, and, it was glinting, and it's quite large actually. Yeah. So then he's like, "How can I get this damn thing valued in person without being ID'd?" And then again, he's remembering, his coworkers talking, "Was she any good? Any good? She's the star of the whole show, man." And instead of being like, I mean, I guess it's kind of a lot to ask, but like some people will be like, "Oh, yeah, my mom's the star of the show." I don't know if anyone really would do that, but he's, he just says, "God damn it. Like, this is something that's so emotionally, upsetting to him." he can't handle that.
Yeah, it seems like he's torn. I'm very interested to see what decision he's going to make, if he's going to sell it, if he's going to, in good conscience, maybe give it back to Quincy, or if Tora is going to track it down for Poppy, who knows. I really do feel empathy for both of the characters who had been previously painted in a negative light, and I think that this is really a good way to understand them better.
Right. Blue Katie was actually talking about this, how like this episode shows that in this whole comic, everybody is not what they appear. You know, we did think negatively of, I didn't really think negatively of Benjamin, but Candy, I thought she was just as ditz, you know? And, but yeah, we're seeing a deeper side to people, and we're seeing that everyone is more than what they appear to be, and in good ways.
And then just going, it's more based on previous chapters, but I was really interested in the flowers that are next to his bed. They were already there before he got there. But when I was looking around at Quincy's apartment, he actually did have a lot of plants. And I had this thought, like, he would totally be that person that would do a plant tour of his house on YouTube.
Yeah. I would totally watch that too.
Yeah. It would be
Poppy,
fun and entertaining.
Yeah.
and he and Poppy would probably have a long conversation about plants.
Yeah.
And probably Tora messing them up, because if you remember, he was twirling. Stop twirling my girly plant.
Oh man, he should totally have his own YouTube channel.
Oh, we should totally make that for him. Somebody should cosplay Quincy and just make a YouTube channel. That would be fun.
That would be so much fun. And he could like advertise for this, but say like he's the star of the show.
Right, because Quincy is quite self-centered. So, you know, in his world, he's the star of Midnight Poppyland.
He's the hero.
Right.
And Tora's the sidekick.
Okay, so now we segue into the second part of the episode. We step away from, you know, this dreary, you know, upsetting conversation, and we get into a whole different atmosphere. We go to Giant Goldfish Publishing. Everything, again, is bright, and we start off with Quincy, like this, "Good morning, Jacob." And who was it that pointed out? Nordor pointed out that Quincy's outfit is like an amalgam, whatever, of everything he's worn previously. He has like the cheetah, right? So he's animal print, his animal print outfit. He has the palm leaf, which he's worn, you know, in the old picture and more recently. He has like the sweater vest, which is, I think he was wearing a sweater, and she said like he's wearing green, like he was wearing last time. So this is like just all his Quinciness thrown together. It's the kind of outfit that like would look terrible on everybody else, but it's interesting on him. It can sort of work. It's like it's pushing the boundary of super nerdy / super cool. You know, it's those between the two.
I think his calves definitely help.
Yes.
Someone had said, "Oh, like, why are his calves so big?" Because I just carried Tora up 6 flights of stairs. I was like, that makes sense.
Yes, it's the physique of a person wearing an outfit definitely lends it an atmosphere.
And his dainty mannerisms. Oh my God, he's such a character.
No, he's so cute. I just imagine him just bursting in like the sing-song voice, like, "Good morning."
Absolutely.
Yep. Cute. I love that. Love it so much. And, you know, Jacob responds in a much more calm manner. He's like, "Hey man, good to see you again." And oh, hey, where's Pops? I think she's getting her notes ready or something. She should be here in a minute. And I like how, you know, Jacob's pose, by the way, just to me shows that he's very comfortable there. And I like that, you know, I like to see a happy office. And we've talked about this on the podcast before where, you know, clearly there's a casual atmosphere, which was why like, and even with Gil, right? We think of Gil as creepy, but like from the way that they treat him, they're clearly very comfortable with him and they laugh with him and they joke with him like, "Oh, I'll get you dessert, blah, blah, blah." So it's nice to see that there's a very healthy atmosphere at the office. And again, we're about to see who's going to walk in here. Somebody who is not used to friends bantering and like a happy place. And like, there's these affirmative signs on the wall with like, what do the signs say?
I
Every
figured
accomplishment
you-
starts with
The
decision
decision.
to try, right? Which, by the way, if we're
Second
going to talk
sign.
about the comic, like Tora is thinking now, should I even try to get out of the clan? Should I try for a better life? And it's like, yes, you should.
Yeah, that's
There's
how I
a second sign too that says, make today ridiculously amazing.
yeah.
It took me a couple scrolls through, but that's what that says.
I actually initially thought that the sign changed and it was like an Easter egg, but it not going back, it looks like there are two signs.
There's two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that this whole atmosphere, this is an environment that Tora has never been in before, and this is a complete contrast to like the world of mistrust and where he was talking to 𝗪𝗓 how every person he meets he thinks is going to stab him in the back, and here there's this friendly atmosphere, this jovial atmosphere. It's very filled with light. It's professional. And it's just, I think Tora being introduced to this world is a really good step for him. And we'll see how much he gets to interact. Like, I don't even know why he's here to begin with, but maybe we'll probably find out next episode. And I don't know how much he'll come back to this office, but if he does, it might be a good place for him to be re-educated and to understand, what life outside the clan could be like and how he could get, have real friends.
Yeah.
I want to see him interact with Erdine. That's going to be so interesting.
Yes.
𝗪𝗫 doesn't drive. So Tora is probably doing all the driving, because if you later on in the comic he's asking, I mean, obviously we know that there is some like innuendo hardcore, but in earlier comics he's like, oh no, I don't do the driving, Tora does all the driving, like I get into too many accidents or whatever.
Right, and of course you can't take public transportation or walk
When you're that loaded.
Princess.
Yeah. So now he's telling him, he was like, oh, by the way, and his whole attitude, by the way, 𝗪𝗫, we've talked about this in I don't remember which episode it was in. Oh yes, I remember. It was the episode where he drags him up the steps, where 𝗪𝗫 minimizes himself a lot. He's like, oh, by the way, right? He withdraws into himself and he makes himself appear harmless. And we talked about this, when he took Tora up the steps, we also saw a deeper side of 𝗪𝗫 that we never saw before. And we started realizing that he might have chosen to minimize himself throughout his life to avoid being placed in a situation in the clan where he would have to step up to the plate and do all the violent things. And by making himself a weakling, his father gave up on him, and probably that's why he got Tora instead. And that's a very interesting way of protecting himself, to make himself appear like this dandy, and then everyone leaves him alone, which is so interesting how people have different reactions. And even, little kid 𝗪𝗪 might have had the unconscious understanding of how to protect himself and how to avoid doing things he doesn't want to do. Someone like Tora is a little more blunt. He's a blunt force. He's just reactive. He's more out there. 𝗪𝗪 is a little, I think, more, there's a little more of a layer to him, and he's able to, I think, understand people's emotions and manipulate them more to his advantage. Whereas Tora is just, everything's out there, rough.
I think kids are a lot more prescient than we give them credit. When they realize, I think a lot of it is just innate trial and error. They're little scientists. So if they see that they get the treatment that they want when they act this certain way, we view it as manipulative, but that's survival for any child. Kids will do whatever they can to get what they want. And so 𝗪𝗪 probably just figured it out. If I act like a wuss, if I cry a lot, if I do this, then they won't treat me as harshly, or they'll just, whatever. Or he could be, self-confirming kind of bias, where everybody thought that because he was so girly that somehow he couldn't take the throne. And so he's just confirming that bias.
Yeah.
Yep. So I like how, by the way, we got in this whole discussion just from this little hand motion that he made, which is, again, because Lily is a master of portraying body language and developing a character that has layers to them, because everything is interconnected and everything has meaning in this comic. So he says, by the way, and he, it's blurred out, and whatever he says to Jacob, and Jacob says, huh? And then you proceed, you see Quincy with, again, more of his amazing calves. God, we can't lust after every single member of this comic, but apparently we can. And he says, yeah, Quincy has started appealing a lot more to that side of me as we progress. So he says, "Hey, Pops," and Poppy is looking adorable herself. She's wearing this cutoff vest, like very 90s, I think, right? Early 90s, yellow with flowers, and she's wearing cropped jeans. What's the word for like that length? I forgot. Cargo? No. Capri. Yeah, it was with a C. Thank you. Capri jeans. And just looking adorable. She has her hair in this really beautiful braid, which is something that she's done before. And Nardine has commented how she's jealous of her braiding abilities. And she's just
Tora.
And Tora, yes. So he's sure to notice that, I hope. And Jacob's looking over at them, and then he's looking over at the door. And then Lily has made the door open with a creak, and everything's dark, and it's like a horror movie. The door's opening. Oh boy, he's looking at it. And, we go back to what Quincy says. Quincy says, "I wanted to give you a heads up first." Again, back to the door. Ominous, dark, spotlighted. And we see Tora's hand opening the door. And Quincy's words, "My bodyguard's joining us shortly." And you see just, Tora's torso and some of his profile, his neck and his chin. And he's wearing a black turtleneck, and he's wearing a black cap. And Jacob's like looking all cute and innocent. "Oh, hi, how are you?" Waving, being friendly. Oh, there's this panel, and he says, "I'm Jacob," and this panel of Tora looming into the room, looking ginormous with his black turtleneck and his cap and his cute pony. Oh, I literally stopped and I said, I don't curse much, but I was like, fuck, he's hot. Sorry, people. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
as you were reading that, the three of us were just kind of like, like on you should start a YouTube channel, to be honest, Mindy, because it's fun seeing you, and it's fun seeing you guys react. I think a lot of people would love just being able to watch us and our facial features. That was just so much fun, just enjoying the moment with you guys.
Yeah, I agree. I wish we were recording this Zoom.
We actually are. We're recording the Zoom. I was recording it because it records separately the audio and video. But if we want to post this video as a video, we can. If you guys all agree to it,
you should start a YouTube channel.
Right. So actually, I guess it's okay to discuss in the podcast. I was thinking about whether we want to do a video with the scrolling, so we can see the episode. So I'm kind of trying to find out from Webtoons if we have permission to do that. Whatever, we'll see if it's a yes or no. But if it's a no, then we could just post the video of people, of us, talking. And I do agree. There's something very nice about seeing people's faces and especially the reactions. So yeah, you can let me know afterwards if you agree, because I know we may not have dressed for the occasion, and I'm wearing my pajamas, just letting everyone know. But this is actually, to be perfectly honest, this is an actual dress that I wear as pajamas, but it's really a dress. But it got to the point where it's so stretched out that now it's pajamas.
Gotcha.
Anyway.
I have a very poppy themed shirt.
I have a turtleneck.
You kind of see Poppy now, and wherever you go, Poppy and Tora, I was eating strawberries on, the other day. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to post this picture on the Mindy Popular Facebook group where it's strawberries. Anytime we do strawberry, avocado, tiger, poppies, we're just.
My husband got me this before I forced him to read all the comics, so he had no idea what he was getting me. Whenever I saw it, I was like, how did you know that would be the perfect shirt?
So anyway, now that we are trying to get over this panel, I don't know how long y'all stared at this for. I did look at this for some time. So Tora's coming in. He's looking completely overwhelmed. He's not looking in Jacob's direction. We have a scan in, and it says, Quincy's words, he looks kind of big and mean. Yes, he does. He does look big and mean. you know, he always has that downturn expression and his jawline is set and rigid. And, you know, because Jacob was like this, he's like, but he's really a relatively harmless guy, which, why would you say that about your bodyguard? Like, that's, you know, Quincy is undermining the very effectiveness of his bodyguard, which is obviously typical Quincy. And I guess relatively, you know, and then here's where Tora just looks at him, the side eye. And y'all know what he was thinking. Go ahead, Priya.
If looks could kill, Jacob would be too. We do know why he's looking at him like that. Probably the number one reason is remembering what Poppy told him about him constantly commenting on her weight, and also realizing that he was the one watching them through her webcam when he came over the first time. And she was also on the phone with him, checking in with him when she went to 𝗟𝗻𝗄𝗃 Street. So he knows him from all those contexts.
Yeah, so on Facebook, there's this really funny comment. I just really wanted to read it. This was from Beth 𝗪𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃, I think is how you say her last name. She literally said, you know, he's registering the information like the Terminator here. If he had a readout screen, it would say Jacob, relationship to Bobby, coworker. Jacob, called Bobby fat, filed for termination at a later date, LOL. And I read that and I was like, yes, exactly that.
I love it.
Like nail on the head.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
So good.
And then I did have one other observation to make too, just about backgrounds. You guys will remember that Jacob had said he had a lot of dark notebooks. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's just confirmation. He has a lot of dark notebooks.
Yeah, good point.
Yep. And, you know, Quincy is like, you know, when he's back explaining, so don't be too alarmed when you see him, which I do like that Quincy is, you know, looking out for Jacob and for his coworkers, where he says, you know, he understands that Tora is intimidating and he doesn't want them to be alarmed. He's a thoughtful person. And I think it's back to really the Quincy of wanting everything to be good. You know, it's like back at the restaurant where you just try to fix things by signing the contract and you rushed into things. You know, Quincy wants things to be pleasant. He wants things to be, you know, what I said before about him undermining the very, you know, purpose of Tora. He is supposed to be threatening and intimidating, but Quincy just wants everything to be positive and, you know, rainbowy and sunshiny.
Avoidance.
It's
That's
funny
what that
though,
is.
because Jacob like totally knows that. Like Jacob asked him a question, how are you doing? And the only thing he got, not even a head turn, but like the side eye. Like literally the side eye. And he just keeps walking.
Yep. Side eye, and then just looks straight ahead again. You know, doesn't even give him more than that. Ignores him, goes away. And we get this shot of his boots. You know, could we count his shoes? We've had, I'm trying to remember. He has like the Converse in the beginning at the train station. He had the white shoes that got soiled with blood, episode 5 or so.
He has a pair of black boots.
Yeah, from when he dropped down the black boots, when he dropped down the gun after the sniper. He had a more fancy pair of dress shoes when he went to Alice's restaurant.
From the restaurant. What was he wearing on 𝗟𝗻𝗄𝗃 Street night? Let me find out.
He has a pair of workout sneakers at the gym that I think.
He's such a shoe person.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're cataloging his shoes. We're like legit remembering all of his shoes.
He has like probably 10 black shirts that are all the same shade, but like he shows his personality with his shoes.
Yeah.
His Dinos t-shirts.
Dino t-shirt.
I also think it's interesting that Poppy is wearing the same little like half sneaker type shoes in this scene that she was in the episode prior, that Lacoste looking like with the little alligator. And that's actually an expensive brand, but I like to think that maybe she got them like at TJ Maxx or something at discount, because that's totally something that I would do.
Or at the thrift shop.
Or
Target.
Actually, Tora also has a pair of Converse with the Dino t-shirt.
Oh, wow.
So
So it's like Converse. 7 or so. Okay, I'm totally gonna make a Facebook post with all those shoes. Go back through them and count them. It's like Elizabeth Barrett Browning, how do I lovely them and count the ways? How many shoes do they
I feel like it's kind of a where's Waldo type thing too. So you have to look for the shoe shop.
Yep. So Jacob's, is just left like this, sitting in the chair with his hands still up. And, Tora, now that we get this shot from Jacob's perspective, he's sweating and Tora is just like, wow, he's huge, first of all. And my husband's 6'4". I don't know if you guys saw him before. So I've never really been intimidated by size. And by now I honestly, I'm so spoiled. I'm like, I think most men are tiny, which is ridiculous. But like, because he's 6'4" and large, I just I got used to that. So Tora is 6'3" and built and just walking there with his like imposing, like large biceps and large chest and, cargo pants. And, he's wearing dark, like khaki which is his normal color, like the greens and the blacks. And wow, he's just looking very intimidating, walking right past him. And Jacob's sweating, and here's where, well, time to get back to work. And I have no idea what Quincy was talking about. There's nothing scary about his bodyguard.
The thing is, though, I'm waiting for the moment for Jacob to recognize Tora, because he's seen him before. Like, it's gonna hit. I can't wait for that either.
Oh, so you don't think that he recognizes that he's the Greek god?
I don't think right now, to be honest, because before, like, he wasn't wearing the hat. I think once he sees him and Poppy interact, it'll click. I don't think necessarily that he does right now, though.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I guess we'll see. So, now we see a shot of him, just his shoes walking, and he's coming up from behind Poppy. So he's tall, and you see, Poppy looking adorable. You see her braids, her cute little butt sticking out, which we know he appreciated before. And there's a little bit of her belly showing. So it's just like a very cutesy, you can see how Tora would be like, oh, my adorable little pumpkin pie, and he's coming in closer on her, right? And then Quincy's like, oh, hey, boo-boo, found a parking lot. And then there's this really nice panel, it's kind of reminiscent of at the restaurant where, he came up from behind Poppy and Poppy froze up. You see her kind of freezing up here again. She's freezing up, her shoulders are tense back and her eyes widen. And he's like, yeah, but it's too effing small. And he looks gorgeous. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is my favorite panel out of the entire episode. They just look both so gorgeous. Poppy is just so affected by kind of his presence in the back. Like you said, when he was at Gudrun's, that was when he was angry and standing behind her. But also at Saki Granny's, when he came up from behind her after she was laughing at him for getting whacked in the head, and she had that same expression that she was just like that was so like electrifying for her. And I also appreciate that her top and his eyes match. And I know we had a discussion in the last episode about the color yellow. She was wearing that yellow dress. And one of the podcasters had said that it could signify peace and courage, which I think is really nice in this context that they're moving forward. But this panel is just so beautiful.
Is so funny little, I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but in this one panel, how she has the two bangs going down either side. In the panel before and the panel after, there isn't that one little flyaway. So I think literally we are seeing her shock in that one little hair, like whoop, what is this? But also, I think Poppy is dressing for success, because those are erogenous zones that she is leaving open. The little nape of the neck that she's showing off with her hair braided back, the little, curve of the waist, and the round with the little crop top, and the fact that the shirt is up away from the bottom half, which you can see the hips and you can see the little butt and everything. So she knows what she's doing.
Do you think she knew Tora was going to be there that day, or she was hoping?
Oh no, I'm pretty sure she knew. I'm pretty sure.
She knew. Yeah.
Okay, good for you, Tora. Poppy. Yeah. Yeah. No, she wants him. I think that maybe even if she isn't comfortable with, having him really, touch her yet or anything, she does want to appear nice to him.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that picture still, and I love the observation of the shirt matching his eyes. I I don't have a strong argument, but I kind of want to say her eyes match his shirt too. It's just her brown eyes aren't usually dark, like she doesn't have dark brown eyes.
Hmm.
It's just it's the mirroring again.
Mhm.
And I'm just gonna, yeah, I think that's just the way I'm gonna read this panel because it makes me happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing like that, this picture when I saw it, the big thing I saw was like contrast between them. You know, Tora is giant, he's tall, and he's dressed in dark. And I did also notice the eyes right away matching. And she's small and petite and cute and dressed in yellow. And it just seems like they complement each other so well. And we talk a lot about how they complement each other, you know, with their personality. But this is, you know, the outside reflecting the inside, especially in art where you can be symbolic. And you know, it's just this this beautiful contrast and like this kind of like melting together, and just love it.
And the fact that like it's like you said, it's complementing. It's not like they fit together, which is why I think I want to read it as her eyes matching his shirt too, because then it goes back and forth, and you see that yeah, he has this dark exterior, but like he's a warm fuzzy ball inside. And then same thing for her, just she's bright and happy, but she does have like a spine of steel when she needs to.
Right. And this is what Blue Katie was saying about this episode, is that everybody in this episode is more than what they show on the outside. You know, but in Quincy too, with his, you know, Quincy has shown us like what we were discussing before, like an inner strength that he hides. So yeah, I love that. It's a beautiful shop. And you know, we're still going, Jacob is still buttering to himself, you know, absolutely nothing at all. Oh.
I think Poppy feels it too, feels like his spirit leaving his body, because I don't know if you can see, but she kind of looks a little blankly down, like she's like, there's a disturbance in this force, what's happening here?
And it's Boo Boo. Like,
Right.
he was so intimidating when he walked through the door, and then he's just like, oh, hey, Boo Boo. Like, what? I love that.
Yeah, I think Poppy in this sense was like a little intimidated that he's so close to her. I feel like she even moved a little further up. If you see the distance between them looks a little closer. Like it's like, he's right behind me. Gotta move away. Too close, too close. And she does. She moves away and she turns around. She flips around. So she's next to Quincy. And now, oh dear. Now, you know, Tora's like, oh, the parking lot's too small, right? Which parking lot's too small? Okay, fine. And it's just an opportunity for this wonderful interaction where Quincy says, how small? I mean, we can always take my car instead of yours. And Tora's like, what, you think your car's bigger? My car's bigger than yours? And Quincy's like, you know, completely in this like very innocent face, is like, pretty sure it is by a few inches even. Because everyone talks about cars by inches. This is very, very normal.
It's so good.
Adorable.
He's supposed to be the erotic writer, not Tora.
Yeah. I was like, Quincy, you're an erotic novelist and you have a colorful sex life of your own. Like, how is this going over your head? I can't.
Are you sure it's going over his head, or do you think he's just playing along just so that way he can be a good wingman for Tora?
Yes. I like that. Tora, you know, Quincy again playing innocent and, you know, pretending to be less strong and savvy than he really is. Oh my God. It's adorable. And especially, you know, and then Tora responds, lucky me, which is like, yes, that's what we're all supposed to be thinking. Lucky you, Tora. A lucky Poppy.
It's so dry. Lucky me. But he like also knows it.
Yep. And he's like, well, I guess that's not a problem for you then, as long as you don't plan on coming every day. Except which I'm trying to understand that in the context of the car. So he's saying if he takes Quincy's car, then Tora can drive him and fit in the parking lot. Am I understanding that? Just the practicalness of this? Yeah. Okay.
I think so.
Yeah. So too distracted by the innuendo to get back to the real conversation. So, and then Quincy's like, well, I would love to. I'm not sure if I could, even if I wanted to. And Poppy's laughing here. Do you think Poppy's laughing because of the sexual innuendo? Like, do you think that's what she's laughing at?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Imagine like Tora. I'm sure he's also putting some like affect to what he's saying. So he's probably sitting there going, so what, you think my car is bigger than yours? That kind of affect. And then she's like catching on, and she's probably, and Poppy reads all these dirty novels herself. You think that she's innocent in this? No, I think she's the dirtiest one of them all.
Twilight fan fiction.
Maybe she even posts some. I'm just being meta, Poppy posting on AO3, but not possible. But anyway, let's pretend.
Quincy says, "Let me check my schedule." I died. So funny.
Yeah, of course he has a planner. And, here is Poppy, who she's covered her mouth with her hands, and she's glancing at Tora. And this next panel, Tora is he's also covering his mouth with his hand as well. They both have that expression. He's also trying to hide a smile, and they're looking at each other, and it's so cute. Oh, yeah, I know, Megan. Same expression. It's adorable. They're like having a normal interaction with each other. They're flirting, they're bantering, they're connecting to each other. Like they're treating each other like a normal, like developing boyfriend girlfriend. This is so nice to see. This is like healthy. This is normal. This is like normal people things.
It makes me wonder how is Tora gonna respond to that, because he's never had normal relationships, normal anything. So having a normal relationship developing normally, is that going to feel normal to him, or is that going to feel really, really, really wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was pushing it away this whole time because he didn't want to accept that. Besides for the danger part and like the concern for Poppy part, I think there's also like this whole emotional thing for him, which is like, how do I let this thing in my life? And he's never received love before. So like for him to receive love, sometimes people unfortunately push things away, that even things that are good for them, because it doesn't feel right. And, we talked about like people choosing abusers because that's all they've known. And like, sadly, we probably all know people in our personal lives. But I remember when I was a kid, one of my classmates, her father was abusive. And like since I was a kid, I had heard the story where her mom, her parent, like her mom, so her grandparents were begging the mom to like leave her husband. And she said, they finally convinced her to leave, and she left, and she packed up, and then she she went back for a pair of shoes that she left behind, and her husband was there, and he convinced her to stay, and like she stayed there forever. And as far as I know, they're still married. But that was, people tend to choose things that they know, that they're used to. So for him to suddenly receive love and affection and happiness, it's probably very emotionally hard for him.
I don't think he's made a choice yet, actually. I think one of the reasons he reacted so viscerally to the restaurant scene was the fact that his choice was taken away. His choice was to protect Poppy, not to be in the relationship with her. And I think it's he's starting to see that the chemistry is really real to them. Like, it's really real for them, especially when she came to visit the apartment. And the way I read the dream sequence was that he kind of has this imminent choice approaching type of thing. And even though he really wants to choose Poppy, it may not necessarily be what he does end up choosing for himself. I have a feeling we're going to see more conflict with him, to be honest, because it's been out of his control. And it continues to be out of his control because he's not there to see Poppy. He's there as a bodyguard for Quincy. It's not within his control. And I think right now what we're seeing is just him making the best of it because this is what he wants, even though it's not what he chose. And I think further down the line, we'll see more of that reconciliation within himself. Because I don't think this is a resolved issue at all, at all.
Right. I agree. I don't think he's made a choice either. Like, and I agree. He's here just because he's with Quincy. And I do think at this point, like, he can't help himself. You know, he's connecting with her because he just feels so strongly with her. And yeah, I don't think it's a choice. Even the asking for the beach, the other episode where he woke up from the dream and he was like, okay, I want to go to the beach with you. And, you know, we did talk about, we said, oh, he's choosing Poppy. He's choosing Poppy emotionally. He isn't making that rational decision. Oh, I'm going to be with Poppy now, and all the, you know, attendant details and like the suffering and the, you know, the physical danger that comes with it. That's way too complicated. But I do think emotionally he's reaching out to Poppy because he just needs her. And here he's reacting to Poppy because they just connect so much.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so cute.
They are.
So now, you know, Bobby, you know, he's like, Quincy's going on in the background. I'll be coming today, tomorrow. Totally oblivious. I mean, it looks like he's oblivious and not paying attention to them, which is good. And, you know, Poppy's like wagging her tongue. And she's like, stop it, you know.
Get involved.
Typical, you know, like, oh, stop, Tora, don't, you know, with your innuendo. And he's just, here's this next panel of him like,
Oh. Sorry, I just made like another realization with their outfits. Quincy's kind of like a blend of Tora and Poppy right now.
Oh.
Like if you kind of squint sideways, especially with the shirt, it's like yellow and dark, and there's green on it.
That's good. Yeah, that's true. He is the bridge between the two of them right now. He's the reason that they're both there. I mean, that they're together. Mm-hmm. So this next panel of Tora, where he's just holding himself back from laughing, and you see two things: his dimples and his crow's things at his eyes. What crow's feet it's called, and it's so adorable. It's beyond. I can't. It's just gorgeous and cute. And like, you know, it's good to see Tora happy. And 𝗙𝗪𝗏 had this whole long comment about Tora and his smile. And I'll just quote a little bit of it. She said that, you know, this is a smile of something that you're getting back, the bliss of getting something that you've considered lost back, where dreams can come true. And I do think that, I don't think he's intellectually there yet. I don't think he intellectually thinks like, oh, I'm getting my dreams come true and everything's going to be fine and dandy from now on. But I think there's the hope. I think that there's this emotional connection where he's like, he's happy and he's enjoying himself and he's just having fun with a girl he loves. And like, you know, is it going to be something someday? Is he allowing himself to hope? Maybe on an emotional level. I think that things are picking up for him. And it's just adorable. It's great to see him happy. It's good to see him, this big guy, you know, who a second ago was super intimidating. Now he's just being all cute.
I think this is one of the few times that we see an actual and genuine smile from Tora. A lot of times what he does is, and I recognize this is kind of putting on an act of social norms. So, you know, when everybody else is laughing at a joke, you smile and you laugh along, you know, but you can always tell it's at a surface level. There's no depth to his jovialness whenever, I mean, even his sexual jokes, I think, are sometimes defense mechanisms to, you know, direct away from the thing that he doesn't want you to actually see, you know, vulnerability, of course. But we're seeing that full smile where you see it in his eyes, you see it even like in his cheeks up here. You're getting not only the dimples right here, but some of the dimple like smile lines up here. Those all together show that he's actually smiling and not just recreating it to create like just to keep things copacetic.
Copacetic?
Copacetic, is that it? Right?
Oh, cool. I've never heard that word. That's nice.
Oh.
I'll look that up.
Okay, now I have to do that. I'm not good at like coming up with the definitions.
Yeah, I'm assuming it means pathetic as in pathos, meaning emotion. So copacetic meaning similar, mirroring someone's emotions. Right? What?
No, in excellent order. Copacetic, like keeping things in order.
Never mind. I guess it's not spelled P-A-T-H. Okay.
Oh, no. 𝗃𝗶𝗹𝗆𝗀𝗋. Copacetic.
Okay, cool.
I must have added a little.
No, it's fine. The brain is interpreting it in light of the information I already have. So yeah, no, it's fine. Your pronunciation was good. So now Tora says, she's like, stop it. And he says, make me, right? Tap, tap. In other words, reward system, blush, kiss me.
I don't remember who it was, but I saw someone posted hoping that Tora would drag her into a closet and steal a kiss.
Wait, sorry, I didn't hear something about Tora.
Oh, yeah. I think it was a Facebook or Patreon comment. I don't remember who it was, but someone had said that they hoped Tora would take Poppy into a closet and steal a kiss.
That would be nice.
Oh my God.
I think his two fingers here is twofold. He's like tapping his lips, but also signifying that, his new addiction reward system instead of the cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like cigarettes too, like he's about to smoke, but he's not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think this exchange, the stop it and make me, it's like kind of whispered under their breath, because if you look, it's like dash lines around the speech bubble instead of solid lines. They're kind of doing it like right under Quincy's nose.
Well, Quincy tends to be self-absorbed, so I can see him missing this interaction. And I think they both probably recognize that about Quincy. And, Poppy at this point, she reacts with make me, she pauses, her finger is like still up there in the air. And then it's like extreme blush. Her whole face is red. She's, exhaling air. There's air bubbles. Her cheeks are puffed out and covers both of her hands with her hands. And that's how it ends. Little hamster Poppy, red as a beet.
She looks like she's about to explode.
Like the fandom.
Those darn red blood cells that she has.
Adorable. Yes, she's still embarrassed by any mention of kissing. And even Tora, right? Tora's a little embarrassed too, asking, which I like. It shows that, like you were saying before, Megan, and we talked about this before, he uses sexual innuendo as a way of deflecting, of being funny. But when he's blushing by asking, that's showing that he actually does have emotions associated with that request, and that it is something that's soft, soft to him and close to his heart, and it does embarrass him. Oh, that's cute.
There was one last comment too that I really liked that someone had brought up. From you guys, why do you think he's wearing a turtleneck?
Oh, to cover up the 𝗏𝗏𝗁 crest.
He's used makeup in the past to cover it up. So this is from Yolanda Miguez. She said that he might be wearing a turtleneck to cover up a bite. So my question is, where do you think Poppy bit him? Did it up in the neck?
Oh, it's already known, like on his collarbone.
Well, yeah. Well, but yeah, it's possible. Yeah, but that's the hickey could be. I mean, maybe if they had some behind the scenes action we didn't get to see. Okay.
Just food for thought. It made me happy. It made me smile to see that too.
Yeah. Somebody else, I forgot who, two people, but sorry, Adam, I didn't write this down, but we're commenting like, what's the weather like in Erin where Poppy's wearing this like crop top and Tora's wearing the turtleneck,
It looks more like those Under Armour shirts that are really super thin. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah. Could be. He would be likely to have that kind of thing because he works out. So good point. Whatever it is, it's, as people have described him, it's not a word I use so much, but he looks fine. Oh boy. So what are your thoughts on this episode overall? I mean, there's two very different segments here. There's the very serious, heavy-hitting segment with Candy and Ben, and then there's this adorable segment with Poppy and Tora, which I think also is like Lily's good storytelling, alternating the two so we don't get too overwhelmed with either. So we have serious content plus fluff and fun.
Yeah, I thought it was a great transitional episode. I really, really enjoyed that contrast. I almost feel like we analyzed two different episodes.
Yeah.
I always feel like they're so short.
Poor Lily, like here she is working, like 80 hours a week. It's just like
Oh
short,
yeah, no.
short.
They just feel so short. That's how quick I go through them.
What's your like reading schedule? Because I know like everyone has their own way of like ingesting Midnight Poppyland. So I usually read it like slowly the first time, and then I read it again that night, like the first night that I read it, and then I read it again in the morning, and then like as I'm preparing for the podcast, and then like I read it again when I do that analysis, live on with the podcast, and then I read it like throughout the week just for fun whenever I feel like it. How do you guys read Midnight Poppyland?
Yeah, so I usually like read it when it first comes out, kind of like what you said, and I feel like I don't even process everything because there's just so much going on. It takes a couple of read-throughs to kind of pick up on everything, and normally I'll go back an episode or two just to get the full context because that's just the way Lily tells her stories. It's not complete within each episode, and then I'll read it just for the backgrounds. This will be like Saturday into Sunday now. Just kind of getting my thoughts together, and kind of sporadically through the week. I do this with books too. I'll kind of like swipe up and down randomly like through the chapters and just pick one, and then I'll just read that and just kind of like leave it kind of random to chance because all the chapters are really great, and I know that there's going to be some little nugget that I may have missed, to be honest, in the first however many times I read something.
Right.
I think that's my exact schedule. I don't process it the first time. I just want to get through it because I've been so anxious refreshing for like an hour.
Yeah.
Several more times that night, go back a few episodes, back and forth, and then sporadically throughout the week pick. I have a few favorite spots that I like to pick up that I do just as a pick-me-up.
Oh, yeah. And I've known people who said that like they have episodes that they go back to for fun.
Yeah.
For like if they've been through, if Tora and Poppy have just had this argument, they go to like the sweet Patty said she goes to the balcony scenes, to pick her up. How about you, Megan? How do you read Midnight Poppyland?
So right now the episodes for me drop right as I'm getting off of work usually. And so my husband lost his job in July, so he's being my lovely chauffeur for me. So I get to actually kind of read it while on the drive home because I live about 30 minutes away from work for me. So small commute, and I never get much in the first reading because for me it's like, while I love romances, I'm one of those kind of people where I'm like, I don't really like romance. I'm not that kind of person. Like I'm this tough stoic like tsundere, or I forgot the name of it in anime, but a lot of people have described me as that, where I'm like very stoic, but then on the inside I'm actually really gooey, and it's kind of gross. And so I'll be sitting there reading, and then all of a sudden something really cute will happen. I'll be like, I can't read this right now. I can't do this right now. And then I have to give it a hot second while I'm like, okay, I think I can look at the cute again. And then I'll just go back through and I'll be like, oh no, I can't. I got to put this back down again. This is too cute. That's like my first read through of me. I just can't do it. And then I finally am like, okay, I got through all the cuteness. And then I go back and then I analyze by zooming in very closely at things. So depending on how good the episode was, there'll be a lot of read throughs, but sometimes it's just, a couple.
Just a couple. That's the bad episodes, right? Just a couple.
Those are the episodes where I'm like, okay, I've gotten as much information as I want to get out of this, but then there are some where it's like, I swear to God, if they were books, they'd be pretty worn through.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been having a lot of problems at work, and I need just things that are pick-me-ups. But you guys, I can't even complain with you two going into COVID war, basically. No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have autoimmune stuff. I take 2 different suppressants, and so I'm like, I had to get special accommodations. I can't have any patient-facing contact just because, yeah, no.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, I think we've been going at it for like 2 hours, which is starting to be the new normal.
I think it's
my
actually
God.
been 3. We started at 10.
We talked for a while before, so I don't remember what time we started recording, but it's definitely been 2 hours. So I think we should, especially if I want to get this episode up tonight, I think we should end. Does anyone have any final thoughts before we sign off?
Thank you. This was so much fun. I had the best time. Can't wait to be back.
Yes,
Can't wait
this
to see what
was,
happens.
it was awesome, and thank you. And I'll have everyone know we started at we officially signed up. We designated the time to start at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard, which was at least for right, me and Megan. You're in Pennsylvania, right?
I'm in Oregon.
Oregon, sorry. Okay, you're in Oregon, sorry, and you're in Pennsylvania. And Priya, you're Pacific, right?
Florida. Eastern.
Florida. Okay, yeah. So for 3 of us, it started at 10 p.m., which is just like shows. We're like, sure, I'll start doing something like at bedtime. So we love Midnight Poppyland so much that we're willing to stay up and like. So
I have a confession to make, actually.
Yeah.
My bedtime has been 9 o'clock because I've been having to wake up at 4 for work, or sorry, 4:30 for work. And I was like, Harry, this is my boyfriend. You have to help me stay up these next couple nights so I can do this podcast.
Oh my gosh.
I've been training to stay awake. I'm so happy I didn't fall asleep.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So you have to wake up at 4:30 tomorrow?
Luckily, no.
Okay.
I was like,
I
oh
get to
God,
sleep
why?
in. No, I get to sleep in tomorrow. Don't worry.
Wow. Yeah. Tomorrow I actually do have to, I'm helping a friend out with, I babysit her kid twice a week and like 5 a.m. So I do have to wake up early tomorrow, but yes, but it's worth it. So
I hope you get rest soon.
yeah, I'm going to put this episode up now. So it'll take a bit of time, but not too much. But thank you so much for coming on. This was fantastic. And it was wonderful. And thanks for, bearing with us with like the first time doing this format. And if you guys agree, we can put the video up. This actually would be, it would be easier in terms of, because people sometimes have trouble accessing the Google Drive for the audio. So if we just put it up as a unlisted YouTube video, I can send people the link while it's FastPass, and then we can, make it public once it's not FastPass, and then so it can be also, the audio will be just on all the podcast platforms, and then the video will be on YouTube. So if you guys are okay with that.
I'm okay with
I'm
it.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. We talk about how consent is important, between Tora and Poppy, and I try to make that important, relevant here too. Okay.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you
This
so
was
much.
so much fun.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Have a great night. Thank
Good night.
you so much for
Good night,
contributing.
everyone.
Really, really, really appreciate it. It's a fantastic conversation.
Yes.
Right.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Night.
Oh, actually, that's one more question. If you want, maybe I was thinking we could post, you know how on Instagram, like I usually post like a picture from the WhatsApp, the webtoon. What if I do like the second shot could be like a screenshot of us, of the hosts. I think Laura, had this idea. What do you think?
I love that.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. So y'all want to smile for a screenshot?
Sure.
Okay. Let's do it. Print screen. Okay. Ready, set, smile. Okay. Awesome. Got the screenshot. I'll send it to you guys before so you can approve.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.